All right, what's going on, guys? Just wanted to make a quick video kind of highlighting my Obsidian setup and how I use Obsidian with learning. First off, whenever I open Obsidian, I always have it configured to open to uh, two things right away. Number one is this little, I call it my scratch pad. It's kind of where I put like my to-do lists and anything else that I'm thinking of that I don't really have a proper place for a note yet. And then a graph view, which kind of highlights, all of my notes and all the connections between notes and tags and stuff I'm learning. And it doesn't look like I have that many notes, but that's because I actually have all of these archived notes are actually not included in this graph. I've configured the settings so it doesn't show like my Obsidian notes from previous years for previous years of study. So this is either stuff directly related to what I'm currently studying, which is all of this stuff down here, or it's stuff I'm learning and making connections about, which is up here. The setup that I use, it's not like a full Zettelkasten note-taking system, but it's also not like a super rigid, like decimal style library inventory system. I I basically sort everything into buckets. So each one of these categories over here, knowledge, life, university, writing, each one is a bucket related to something. So like if I go to knowledge, most of the knowledge notes is related to concepts and stuff that I'm learning on my own. A lot of it is tech related. Like for example, this note here is talking about like, large language models for coding assistance, or this one, which is stuff related to how I configure my fan profiles on my laptop. The life one is usually related to like, my life goals, project ideas or projects that I'm working on, and also just random stuff like, my summer plans. My summer plans list is here. Um, then there's, like, my keyboard build part list and other part lists for stuff that I'm working on. University is pretty self-explanatory. All of these are university related notes. Most of these are just related to the lectures that I've been taking, as opposed to like reading or anything like that. And then writing is for like all of my creative writing. So this is like my poetry that I've been writing, or essays that I've been working on, or even like blog posts. Like some of my blog posts I have are down here as well. And the idea behind it though is that each one of these folders is actually just root level. There's no subfolders in any of these. Like if I were to go over here to like University Archive, there's folders inside of here, and I don't want that for my main buckets of information. And kind of the flow that I do with notes is I go over here to my inbox. My inbox contains all of the notes that I am currently working on, or that I haven't like found a spot for yet. I usually once a week, like I'll just collect all the notes that I've made over a week, and then I'll sort them into the buckets once a week. But even if it's like related to like a university thing, like you'll notice I have like, stuff for my English class right here. But I also have stuff like, project ideas, or, stuff related to university, or, even something like right here, like how does Kubernetes work, which is, something for a home lab project that I'm working on. But when I go in and create a note, for example, you'll notice that it automatically populates this with this like properties thing. And I've actually custom written that. And what it does is I can attach like tags to my information. So I can just say like, let's say this is a note about algorithms and data structures. And I can just add as many tags as I want. And then I can go through and search through my notes based off the tag if I wanted to. But I also have a type, so I can sort based off if it's an assignment, a lecture note, a reading note, something related to my poetry, or a part list. And I also automatically populate it with the creation date, so I also know if it's the newest information I want. And then, I could just start writing, like this is an example note. And then, I can link it to other notes if I want to, like that. Or I can just, do whatever I want to do. But that stays in the inbox, as you can see right here, until I'm ready to find an actual spot for it. And then once I know where I want to move it, I can just send the example note and I can just go over here and I can just move the note to one of these other um, directories or buckets that I have. And like I said, I use these templates. So actually, if I were to if I were to clear this out completely, and you can see I have like a blog template, a lecture template, a regular note template, which is like the default template I use for everything, and a reading template. And if you were to look at like my lecture template, you'll notice I do actually take out quite a bit more information. I also specify like what course it is, what semester I'm taking it in, what year of college I'm in. And I do it this way because it allows me to very easily search through all of the information using my OmniSearch plugin, which is what I use to search through everything, because I can search based on tags and anything like that. Um, and on top of that, I also utilize the Obsidian web clipper. So I don't know, let's go find some interesting article on Kubernetes, just as an example. And what I'll do, we'll take the Wikipedia article. I could click right here and it will automatically generate the entire Obsidian node here, this Obsidian web clipper. And I can specify the directory I want to send it to. And in this case, I'm going to specify it to go to my inbox. I'm going to click add to Obsidian, open Obsidian, and there you go. It's right there. And if I go to the inbox, you'll see it's right there. It's been tagged automatically with the tags I want, and it gives all the additional information. And then I can go through, make the changes I want, and keep using it. And then, like I said, this is just kind of the visual representation of all of the information I've been collecting. When it comes to plugins that I use, I keep it pretty minimal. The only plugins which actually do anything related to how I go through my notes is Notebook Navigator, OmniSearch, Templater, and Waypoint. Waypoint is kind of what's creating these like little links to all of my notes and stuff. So, I can either go in here to search, or I could just click on the note and then click on one of these and it will take me there as well. And so that's Waypoint. Templater is how I create all my note templates. OmniSearch is how I search through everything. And Notebook Navigator is kind of this custom sidebar that I'm using with all of my shortcuts and my vault and everything else. And then iconize and style settings, those are just related to like, making it look nice. And then I use Git to back up and sync my notes. But aside from that, that's pretty much my entire Obsidian setup. I like to keep things pretty minimal. And I kind of like just to let it grow with me as I need to. Like if I get enough information on a certain topic, like I'm expecting at some point, there's probably going to be a bucket which I create, which is related to stuff for my internship, because my internship is in a very interesting field of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I'll just let the vault grow when that occurs. And then I can work on retagging notes or anything like that. Like, I have a repository of a ton of different, scripts that I use to help with tag and writing and working on my Obsidian vault. So, it's always a work in progress, but it's like your personal information system. So I think it's important to have something like this for learning. Um, but yeah, that's the extent of how I use Obsidian and my current Obsidian setup. If anyone's interested in a video of how I set up Obsidian for this sort of setup, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know that you want me to make a tutorial on how I do it, and I'd be more than happy to make a video about that. Thanks, guys.